What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here today. Got some news for you. It's going to be a very defensive end heavy news cycle today. I got a couple articles I want to read. The Dolphins actually traded a player away, so that's interesting. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So first and foremost, like I said, the Dolphins have traded a player away. And like I said, this is defensive heavy. So real quick, just to recap, the Dolphins just cut yesterday former Cowboys first round pick Taco Charlton. Unless Taco Charlton gets picked up by another team, just really quick, I saw this was a tweet. Unless Taco Charlton gets picked up by another team, the Dolphins will owe him $458,000 that was guaranteed in his rookie deal from the Cowboys. So it'll be the Dolphins on the hook for that unless he gets signed somewhere else. So we'll have to wait and see there. I mean, it's, $458,000, so on the cap space it doesn't make a big deal, but all those pennies add up overall, and they already, just blew through their cap space like it was nobody's business. So that's obviously something cumulatively that we will have to keep an eye on. Well, as it is, today, the Dolphins have traded away former first-round pick from 2017, Charles Harris. The Atlanta Falcons, looking to upgrade their pass rush, have acquired Charles Harris from the Miami Dolphins for a 2021 7th-round pick, the team announced. Wow. So they didn't get very much for him. Look, to be fair, this was out of the Gase years, so I saw several tweets talking about how the Dolphins have traded away all three of the first-round picks from Gase's tenure. Not totally surprising. It's kind of like, Donald Trump with anything from the Obama era. He's just completely gotten rid of it or destroyed it. So it's kind of similar. They've literally, they jettisoned pretty much the entire team that was built over the 3 years that Gase was here. By the way, I loved their draft. I think they had an amazing draft. Don't be surprised if guys like CJ Mosley and Le'Veon Bell are going to be out of there to further prove that Adam Gase is not a big name free agent kind of guy. And let's see how it goes, man. I really enjoyed, I think that they had a really good draft, and I think that they're going to move up the boards. Anyway, so look, but to be fair, that was one of the picks that didn't pan out so well, right? I was hoping, I thought he had a lot of potential, and he can't set the edge really to save his life, and that's problematic for a defensive end. And then, obviously his sack production also wasn't there. So, but look, the two other first round picks, Laramie Tunsil and Mika Fitzpatrick, were phenomenal, right? So you can't hit on them all. Not to mention, though, again, Mike Gesicki, Jerome Baker, Raekwon McMillan, all those guys came from those draft classes. Jordan Phillips is now jumping around. Actually, did he come before? I think he might have came before Adam Gase, so I won't bother with that. Devontae Parker obviously came before Adam Gase, but he's the only first round pick from the past several years that's still on the Dolphins. Anyway, let's finish this up though. The Athletics' Jason Butt first reported the news. The Dolphins selected Harris 22nd overall in 2017, but he struggled to break in the defensive line rotation, making just 8 starts in 41 games played. He showed promise during his rookie season with 12 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, but the Missouri product has managed just 11 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks in 25 games over the past 2 seasons combined. Harris is set to earn $1.94 million next season in the final guaranteed year of his rookie contract per Spot Track. The Dolphins have spent this offseason reshaping their roster as Kyle Van Noy, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Shaq Lawson were brought in to upgrade the pass rush. Atlanta, meanwhile, had an opening on the defensive line, letting Vic Beasley leave in free agency. Harris will likely play behind Dante Fowler, who signed a 3-year, $48 million contract, blah, 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 blah. So look, again, theoretically on paper, the Dolphins have improved, right? So look, it's a mixed bag with like Taco Charlton and Charles Harris. First, Charles Harris, again, he didn't totally pan out. I think maybe he probably needs to make a position switch, new set of scenery probably will help. And to be fair, that was one of Gase's picks that didn't work out. But his other 2 first-round picks were phenomenal, and his drafts were 50% or better. Every single one of them. The 3 of them. Whereas Brian Flores so far, in the Brian Flores era, the first draft that they had is not... I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it's not very good, right? Christian Wilkins is the best out of the entire draft class, which he should be because of his first-round pedigree, but he was underwhelming at best. Yes, I understand for rookies he had the most tackles, but we need him to do a lot more than that. And frankly, some of his stats need to shift from just tackles to, because pretty much all that says, especially if you watch the Dolphins defense last year, is that he showed good effort and he chased guys down to make sure to help out with tackles and so on and so forth. So, other than that, he didn't play very well. He didn't create very much pressure or get sacks. He didn't, command double teams to allow other people on the offensive line to get pressures. He wasn't very good. Our run defense was garbage. Our pass rush was garbage, and he was a major part of that. But the rest of it, 2 of the guys aren't even on the team anymore from that draft class, and like half of them were hurt. Most of them didn't play for a long time, and then even Michael Dieter was trash the entire season. Miles Gaskin was just okay when he came in. Andrew Van Ginkel was okay when he came in. And look, draft class number 2 has a ton of concern. There's a bunch of guys with injury histories. A few of these guys seem to be, appear, from my perspective at least, to be reaches. I don't think that they managed it properly. I think they could have gotten the top talent on the offensive line at safety and running back, all massive areas of need, but instead they decide to reach for some guys, take players at positions they didn't really need, push down the draft board to take positions that they do actually need, like edge rusher and running back, what have you. But look, again, this year is hashtag prove it, because they believe that guys like, Kyle Van Noy and Shaq Lawson and these guys that they brought in, these guys that they've drafted, etc., 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 they feel like they are going to be the answer, so they need to prove that. All right, so that transitions, though, into this next article, High Expectations for Rookie Pass Rusher. Okay, so this is from Sports Illustrated. I got it on the Bleacher Report app from Alan Pupar. He's been with the Dolphins and covered them for a long time. The Dolphins ended up selecting 5 defensive players among their 11 picks in the 2020 NFL Draft, but there's one in particular who has caught the attention of many observers. That would be 5th round pick Curtis Weaver from Boise. So first of all, let's start by saying that he was picked in the 5th round. So draft status alone, you don't expect him to make a major impact. However, there's a couple factors. One, we don't have any pass rush at all as it currently stands. Now, that's not to say on paper. I just mean from the 2019 season, we ended at the bottom of the league in pass rush. Theoretically, on paper, we have improved that. That remains to be seen, and they have to show that on the field. But they didn't take a guy until the 5th round. They certainly could have gotten a mid-round pass rusher or whatever. Like I said, with their first 2 picks, they could have gotten the 2 top offensive linemen in the draft. They could have gotten the top safety with their 3rd first-round pick. With their first second-round pick, they could have gotten the top running back in the draft. And then from there, in the second round pick, then they could have gone edge rusher or something. And that would have made sense, right? Anyway, but they waited until, way later. To be fair, a lot of the analysis and experts that I've been reading and articles and stuff that I've been reading have said that they feel like this dude could be a steal. He could have easily have been taken, much earlier in the draft. Okay, so maybe. From my perspective, the Dolphins' evaluation of players has been pretty garbage under this regime so far, from Stephen Ross down to Flores, who admitted he has had a hand in every single transaction that they have done. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see. Does this dude pan out? Weaver joins the Dolphins after... Oh, but the other factor is that we have no pass rush. I did mention that, though. Anyway, Weaver joins the Dolphins after setting the Mountain West Conference career record for sacks with 34, a feat he accomplished in just 3 years, no less. Okay, so that's impressive. But I could be wrong about this, so somebody correct me, but I don't believe the Mountain West Conference is anything like the Pac-12 or the SEC, or I'm pretty sure it's a lower division school. He went to Boise State, but I'm pretty sure it's filled with lesser competition schools, as opposed to some of I don't know. I'm not huge on college. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what the kind of competition level Curtis Weaver did experience. I know Boise State is a solid school. I know they're not like, the best of the best, but they do have good years, good seasons. They do have some good recruits. I mean, we had gotten, Jay Ajayi out of Boise State. I was excited for him for a while. But let me know, because the point of this is I don't know that much about it since I'm unable to follow college as much as I would like. But my guess, though, is that part of that has to do with the fact that he didn't play against, as top talent in college when he was there. My guess. So we'll see. But he could just be a great athlete that was overlooked, and maybe he is a steal. I hope he is. I really do hope he is, because, again, the Dolphins had no pass rush last year. While he was knocked in pre-draft scouting reports for his lack of particularly outstanding physical traits, and that's one of the things that I have heard is that he's not particular, and this is part of the reason why I was led to the competition thing, because if he's not, a lot of people are saying that the analysts and scouts are saying that he doesn't exactly have outstanding athleticism or whatever, which as a defensive end on the NFL level, to me, can seem very problematic. And this is what leads me to the competition thing, because the level of competition in the NFL, and that's why oftentimes players have a hard time adjusting, because the competition is so stark in difference compared to the college level. So anyway, it's impossible to overlook his college production. Despite that, they're saying. And odds makers are thinking he'll have the same kind of impact in the NFL. Well, I hope so. I really do. Weaver actually, especially because, look, I mean, right now, obviously, Tom Brady's not in the division anymore, but everybody's talking about, who's going to be the next, division leader, who's going to be blah, 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 who's going to take it over. Right now, the Bills and the Jets are certainly, I would say, ahead of us overall, okay? A lot of people would argue that, I know, and certainly you can make an argument that we've caught up and that at least on paper we have the potential to compete within the division, etc., blah, blah, blah. However, I believe that the Dolphins are behind those other two teams. Certainly the Bills look like they are poised to be the next one up as it stands right now. My guess is if the season plays out, that it will be the Bills with the Patriots in second, the Jets in third, and then the Dolphins in fourth. I don't think that they are going to have a particularly great season. I don't think that these things are going to work out. These players they brought in free agency, etc., are going to work out how they hoped. And I have concerns with some of these guys from the draft class. Not to mention, we are going to have a lot of the same issues that we had last year. For example, they pretty much have to hit the reset button on team chemistry and start pretty much all over. I saw a couple tweets, somewhat, similar, talking about how the Dolphins are going to have almost half the roster, or somewhere around half the roster, is going to be completely new again this year. Like I said, I told you guys this, it was almost impossible to think otherwise. Not just with the draft class and all the picks that they brought in, but all of the free agents. I mean, the draft picks and the free agents alone are pretty much half the team, and it's totally new. Pretty much an entirely new coaching staff with new schemes. All of these things could cause potential issues. Not to mention, we're also, again, one of the youngest and most inexperienced teams in the league. Theoretically, we have a lot more talent than we had prior to, but that still has to be sussed out. Anyway, Weaver actually is being viewed as the Dolphins defensive draft pick most likely to have an impact in 2020 based on odds posted by Bovada and William Hill. Both sports books have made Weaver the Dolphins draft pick with the best odds of becoming NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. I doubt it. I don't think he would get to that level, but he could certainly be the most impactful rookie. He certainly could be the most impactful defensive rookie. He has that opportunity, especially with these former first-round pass rushers being shipped out. Weaver was listed at plus 10,000 by Bovada and at 50 to 1 by William Hill. Weaver is the 20th best odds according to Bovada and is the lowest drafted player among the top 20. So, in other words, he's got the lowest odds for all of the drafted players in their list. The William Hill odds have Weaver tied for 22nd, and the only player with lower odds who was drafted after him is Baltimore Ravens safety Geno Stone, who was taken in the 7th round. Weaver was asked after being drafted by the Dolphins what led to his pass rushing success. Working hard, effort, Weaver said. The second you're on the field, you have to give everything you got. It's God's gift. Pause there for a second. A few things. One, God doesn't exist. So it's not God's gift, it's nature's gift. But I don't need to argue that. Don't want to argue that. I understand people believe in God. Have at it. I don't care if you believe in God. I don't believe in God, but whatever. I agree that you got to put it all out on the field and you got to work hard, and that's great. And hard work can help out in a lot of ways and bring you a lot of success. However, if he doesn't have possess, and certainly technique and stuff like that, can also help to overcome some things and to help balance you out. But it's going to certainly be much more difficult for him on the NFL level if he doesn't have the type of athleticism, the physical capabilities to beat, these top offensive or these offensive linemen at the top level of the game. So we'll have to wait and see. Dolphins head coach, so for example, last year, this Dolphins team, the players gave it their all. That is undeniable. The players showed on the field that they were putting it out there one way or another. Because they knew, a lot of them knew they probably weren't going to be on the team next year, but they needed to put out good tape, right? It's for their careers. Or this year. So, but no matter how hard they tried, and they tried hard, but they could only get to the 5 wins. They couldn't, be world breakers or world beaters or make it to the playoffs. Why? Because they didn't have the capability. They didn't have the physical capability or the talent. There obviously some other factors went into that as well, like being young and inexperienced, having to adjust to the NFL, being pretty much an entire team of, built as a practice squad or an expansion team, what have you. But also because we were very much lacking in talent. So, and athleticism and physical prowess and physicality and all of those things. Anyway, Weaver's a good pass rusher, or showed that over the course of his college career, Flores said. Hopefully that translates. Well, I agree. Hopefully it does. I think he has got to do a better job in a lot of areas, but so does Jason Stroudsbridge, the 4th round pick, and so does every one of these rookies. They all have to improve. They all have a long way to go. There's definitely some things that we really liked out of Weaver from a pass rush standpoint. Also, pause real quick. The development of these players could be hindered also by the fact that they're not allowed to meet in person and so on and so forth. And, training camp could be postponed, or if they don't have a rookie season to play, if 2021 ends up being their rookie season, their their development and so on and so forth could be seriously hampered and could cause this draft class to end up falling more towards the bust potential as opposed to their boom potential, right? Like this draft class, I'll admit, there's a ton of potential production out of these players, from Tua all the way down to the 7th round quarterback / running back / wide receiver that they took. There's tons of boom potential, but there's also tons and tons, probably just as much, bust potential. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. Injuries, blah, 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 blah. So we'll have, and development, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Weaver had a career 11 sacks in 2019 when he was named the Mountain West Conference Defensive Player of the Year. One of the two players who previously shared that career sack record with 28.5 was TCU's Jerry Hughes, okay, who has gone on to have a successful NFL career with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, if he can live up to Hughes' career, I would take that. Hughes became a first-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts in 2010, thanks to his quickness off the line of scrimmage. Weaver, on the other hand, was described in media scouting reports as an average athlete with limited quickness or strength. I mean, to me, that's massively problematic, translating it to the NFL level, and especially if you know, his development will be hampered by, you know, some of these current factors. This was the NFL.com scouting report on Weaver. Stand-up end whose production as a pass rusher must be balanced out by his below-average ability and athleticism in stopping the run. Well, that's especially not good. Weaver is a naturally, I mean, especially because they just got rid of a first-round edge rusher who has questions about his pass rush but can't set the edge. So they essentially just replaced Charles Harris with, like, potentially a fifth-round version of himself. So, or a fifth-round version of him. So, we'll see. Weaver is a naturally instinctive counter rusher who uses synchronized hands, feet to attack both inside and outside edges as a rusher, but his lack of explosiveness and athletic traits could dull his rush production against NFL offensive tackles. He plays with football intelligence, but his level of NFL success can be determined by whether his skill can overcome below average explosiveness. And obviously that's not going to get any better as he gets older. But Weaver always somehow found a way to get to the quarterback, and there's obviously some folks who think that'll continue in the NFL. Well, again, and this is how I'll end this, guys. Hashtag prove it. The Dolphins don't have a choice. They don't have a choice, right? I saw a couple more tweets about the draft picks that they have next year, and that's all well and good. They got a bunch of picks, what have you. But, again, their first draft class shows a lot to be desired. Draft class number 2 has plenty of concerns. In addition to all of the boom potential that they have tons of bust potential. And, you know, the free agents that they brought in, you guys know, I think that for the most part, the majority of them are overpaid, and we're not going to get the production, certainly that their contracts would dictate, but that we expect out of them as well. And so I hope that they prove me wrong, but they have to. Hashtag prove it. Hashtag prove it. Hashtag prove it. The Dolphins need to prove it this year. Otherwise, I mean, it's pretty much a wrap at that point on this regime, because if they don't have success this year, and, you know, they fall even further behind, I don't foresee Brian Flores in this regime having more than the average 3 to 3.5 years that Stephen Ross typically tends to fire his coaches, because his patience only lasts about that long. Alright guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos and perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.